Well, hello again. Pastor Ray Barnett here. Glad you can join with me on another broadcast of God's answers for anxiety and depression. As always, I wish you a good morning, a good afternoon, or a good evening, depending on what time you're watching this broadcast. Now, yesterday I got occupied with things to do and had every intention of making another lesson, doing another lesson, but this time eventually just ran out, so I didn't. Very important to make sure you hit the notification button, because I do know that several of you have mentioned that you like watching these every day, and there are going to be those occasions when something just prevents me. You know, the weather, as you can see, is changing too. Today's rainy. It's okay, we can use it. But around here, the leaves are just starting to turn, and I think within the next week or so, we're going to see, or you're going to see, I'll try to pick some spots that really do the nature of God justice by showing just how beautiful these colors are. As I told you once before, so many people travel from around the country to come here, also Vermont, and other places in the Northeast where we have more trees and different types of trees. When they start to change with the yellows and oranges and the reds, and in certain locations, which is what I'm getting at, I'll try to pick that for you. You're going to be able to see the tremendous beauty of God. But I said that to make mention of this seasons are changing again. I'm sitting here, I got a t-shirt on, a turtleneck on, a collared shirt, and I got a fleece on. So it's a little bit raw, but still, it's okay. It's well with my soul. I hope that you can say the same. So I'm going to have to start to decide where to broadcast once the weather becomes too difficult to do any broadcasts outside. But you know what? We'll see. We'll see how it works out. All right. So, you know, I know that on this channel, since I started it back in the spring of this year, we have over 100 videos now. And again, for those of you who watch on a daily basis, you know that I give you just a little bit each day. It's a 25-minute broadcast roundabout. And excuse me, if you're new to the channel, I would highly recommend that you go back and visit some of the earlier broadcasts, because you think of it as a buffet where I'm putting out a little bit of this and a little bit of that all along the way. So if you come at the end of the buffet, you're not actually getting to see the whole picture. And this subject, at least the way I'm dealing with it, is, you know, given a little here, a little there, a little here, a little there. So anyway, I would encourage you, if you're new to the channel, to go back and look at some of the other broadcasts. They're not in a chronological order. I do put them on a playlist, so the dates should be there in a chronological order, but the topics are not. And the reason being is that this subject can be discussed from just about any angle at any time. Unlike if we were sitting in my office, and you were bringing me specific issues that you're dealing with, and then I would come from one angle, maybe two, but not too many. But since the audience is so broad, excuse me, the needs so great, I choose to come to you. And again, if you watch the Time for Truth Ministries channel, which is my sermons, I always pray over my messages. Try to get the mind of the Lord so I'm on the right page, so to speak, at the right time. And I do the same with these broadcasts as well. So that's my approach. It's not so much step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but could be from any direction at all. And I repeat a lot, as I've told you. This is the only way to learn anything. Remember the lesson or the illustration that I used about, well, you could apply it to anything, but think about learning an instrument for those of you who play. And I'll go through those that whether piano or stringed instruments. And as you're learning, you play scales. And even with decades of proficiency behind you, where you become very proficient at a musical instrument, you still go back to playing scales, warming up, not just warming up with scales, but making sure that you're always there playing the things that you played. In my case, I started as a rudimental drummer when I was 10. And most of the drummers, rudimental drummers that I know, they'll always warm up pretty much the same way that they did when they were 10 years old, and it's 50 years or more later. Point being, there are certain fundamentals that need to be repeated again and again and again and again. So I repeat myself quite frequently. With that being said, I have a few thoughts in my mind to go over with you. Number one is just a general observation of how many people are now suffering with anxiety and depression and other mental health disorders ever since COVID-19 became a global problem. I read and mentioned in my message last Sunday, suicide hotline calls have risen 600%. 600%. And then you talk about alcoholism, deaths from drug overdoses, and so on. You get the picture. They've risen dramatically because the world is stressed. I mean, everybody in the world is stressed. And for you who have had a history of panic, anxiety, depression, so on, some of you who write to me and some who I've talked to have seen also an increase in your own life. So to be repetitious, or I should say to repeat myself, is not just unnecessary repetition. I don't repeat myself for lack of creativity to come up with something new so it's always engaging. That's not how you learn anything in life. Again, and I don't mean to be critical of other YouTube creators, whatever their content is. They may be looking to always be, on the cutting edge of some new topic, and it keeps their viewers locked on. I'm not after that. I'm after helping you to learn lessons that you're going to have to practice again and again and again and again and again, so that you can master this thing and be free of your symptoms of anxiety, depression, and so on. So, number one for today is I talked about this some time ago. You're not alone in dealing and struggling with panic, anxiety, depression, and so on. You're not alone. I want to say us. All of us are dealing with it as well. The current situation, as I observe other people whom I know don't have the typical issues that would be considered in the area of mental health, you can see the stress. So you have to realize that you're not alone in what you're struggling against, or if you prefer, in your suffering. You're not alone. This may seem like a small consolation to you, but if you will consider it, you'll realize that your case is not unique. In most ways of thinking of it or examining it, your case is average. Now, obviously, there's always an exception to that. Somebody whose case is truly unique. But for the most part, anxiety, depression, and all the symptoms that go with it is not unique to you, which means that your symptoms are average. Frightening, yes, and in some case debilitating, certainly. But that's why we're here, is to mitigate that, change it, and give you the victory. But it's important that you know you're not alone, because as I mentioned in the past, one of the added afflictions, or as we say, adding insult to injury, is the fact that you may feel like you're the only person suffering, even though intellectually you know you're not. Emotionally, you feel that you are. So you may feel emotionally that you're all by yourself, isolated, but I'm trying to encourage you to understand that you're not alone. There's many people out there suffering just like you are. And again, small consolation, right? But let it be some type of consolation that, well, God has things under control. And there's so many people just like you who are going through very difficult times with the exact same symptoms that you have. All right. So we look at the fact that, I'll say we are not alone. No matter what we're going through, we're not alone. And with that, we then go to this second point, which is that, again, this is review or repetition for the sake of helping you to be reminded or to understand what is it what is it I'm going through here. Relaxation, obviously, is difficult to accomplish when you're stressed. And again, the whole world at the moment is very stressed. And relaxation becomes critical when it comes to the symptoms of anxiety and depression, but I'll say particularly of anxiety. The large skeletal muscles, right? These muscles here, they become very tight, right? You're stressed, you're tense, right? That tension is in the muscles initially. And then it begins to put pressure on the nervous system. The nervous system then is under a lot of tension. Then it begins to misfire, sending wrong signals to the brain. It is causing your body to be stressed. Now, let me go back to something I said last week. So we have stress all around us in this outer environment. All right. Of course, we got stress, tension in the inner environment, the physical body, the mind, the soul. Could say the spirit as well. But I'm looking right now at all the stress that's in the world. And as we absorb that, these muscles get tense. They put pressure on the nervous system. The nervous system is not functioning properly. And an example that I've given you in the past is that if you take one very large nerve, in particular the vagus nerve controls your heart rate, respiratory system, digestive system, controls a lot of the major players. So you could have a combination of heart palpitation, shortness of breath, stomach hurts, and you could have it all at once. One thing that's very unique about the body, a good thing, well, it's all good, but I mean, one thing that's very unique about the body is that people with nervous symptoms don't have them all at the same time. Now, you may have any number of symptoms, dozens upon dozens, but you won't have them all at once. It's a good thing, right? Imagine if you got hit with every single symptom all at once. So the vagus nerve, as an example, you have the heart, the lungs, the stomach, any of them at any moment can be affected. And in some cases you could have a little bit of the three of them for illustrative purposes. And then alarm, and then the idea of danger, and then the panic, and panic makes more panic. Depression has a way also, we use the expression circling the drain, and you start circling the drain with depression, panic as well, and then all of a sudden it's just like you're spiraling downward. We got to stop that. We got to stop the spiral and work it back up the other way to get you up and above. Prayer, remember, this is God's answers for anxiety and depression. Prayer is very, very key. The Bible tells us to pray without ceasing, which frankly is not easy to do. But it just simply means just keep praying. Keep praying. Pray all the time. For me, when people pop into my mind, I pray. If someone is on my mind for a few days or for a long period of time, it's time for me to make a phone call or write a text, an email, because usually it's an intuitive sense that this person needs, someone needs to reach out to this person. Sometimes I delegate it too. Ask someone, give so-and-so a call. It's an intuitive sense. And to get you to come back up this way, to keep with the illustration, to come back up out of the drain, is going to take a lot of patience. The very thing that most everybody, but particularly those of you with nervous symptoms, is the last thing that you either have or that you want someone like myself to say, oh, you need more patience. Thankfully, I'm not the type of person that says things glibly like, you're impatient. Why are you impatient? I can be the most impatient person in the world, believe me. The only difference is I've learned over the years that that's going to make the matter worse. I don't talk to myself. I don't think that that's necessarily a healthy thing to do. Oh, of course, in my head I do. And once in a while I'll talk out loud. I mean, whisper to myself, But you encounter some small problem, or you encounter a problem that you thought was going to be small because you got a time schedule. I'll give you an example. And all of a sudden this thing's wrapping you up and taking time, and you're looking at your watch. There's places to go, people to meet, things to do, and you're getting more frustrated. We talked about that as well. The frustration is adding tension. The tension is putting more pressure on the nervous system. The nervous system continues to misfire, and then what happens is that your symptoms actually increase. Not only in the intensity of the original symptom, such as palpitations, but it also increases this other symptom. It can generate other symptoms, new symptoms. Now, I don't know that there's anything more distressing when you've already got this set of symptoms over here that you're kind of used to. Oh, there goes the heart again. Oh, I'm short of breath again. And my stomach. But when you start to develop something new, automatically you start to say, oh, what's that? What is this ache? Or what is this tremor? Or you get the idea? So now, with the introduction of a new symptom, you get more anxious. Well, that's what happens when we don't start to pull it back, ratchet it down, take pressure off the nervous system by relaxing the muscles. Otherwise, we risk increasing the symptoms you already have or developing new symptoms. Now listen to me. In the time in which we live, well, any period in history, it has been impossible to escape stress, fear, and depression. But in the times in which we live right now, I think we're going to see more of it. And the technology, like what I'm doing here, which really, really helps us quite a lot, can also be a source of more frustration. You ever try to boot up your computer? And on that day, it just decides it's going to take, well, it seems like forever. Because we're so used to that thing at super speeds. And, it gets frustrating. I ain't got time for this. That's an example. There's so many humorous illustrations I'd like to give you from my own life, but I guess I won't go into them right now. Some other time. Where I say to myself, what's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Just slow down. Just slow down. Took apart some things yesterday that's why I was hung up. It was one of those areas where I want to do this broadcast and thinking, well, I'll give myself an hour for this project, and it took a whole lot longer than that. I underestimated the how long that project would take. And now I'm getting frustrated. I want to be here for you. And I'm looking at my watch. Hour became an hour and a half. Became an hour and 45 minutes. Became 2 hours. And I'm literally wrestling with this thing. Trying to get it done quick so I could go and do, which in my mind is more important, which is being with you. Yet I have other obligations that I can't escape because they're important too. So I had to release this broadcast, yesterday's broadcast. I had to release it and say, you know what? It's just not going to get done today, which is unfortunate. But let it be a lesson to you. There are times when no matter what you do, you cannot control the situation. And being frustrated about it will definitely make your symptoms grow worse. You're not alone in this life with your situation. You're not the only one suffering from panic attacks and anxiety and so on and depression. If you know that, it should be some consolation that you're in the kind of an average group of people, or in a certain group of people. Your symptoms are average, with the exception, again, when there's some unique situation, symptom, which, by the way, when you read psychology textbooks and other textbooks, they always accent the unique cases. Same with the newspapers. They'll accent something that's really, really dramatic, when 99.999% of the rest of life is pretty average. And that's not what people like to read about. And also, when it comes to explaining, symptoms, textbooks have a way of favoring the really extraordinary cases. Just be comforted by the fact that your experience, though distressing, is not dangerous, and it is average for people who are prone to anxiety and depression. All right, just a kind of a little review today, just little bit more of an exhortation to remember some of these things. There's many things. Again, there's over 100 videos up now that cover a lot of topics, and we got more to go. We got many miles to go yet. So let me pray for you today, okay? So, Father, once again, I pray for my friends that I believe you are delivering them, present tense, from their distresses, from their frustrations, and certainly from their anxieties and depressions. And I pray that in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, all right. The creek rose yesterday, that's for sure. If I told you the story of it, I guess I'd have you laughing, but for a moment it wasn't too funny for me. I was very frustrated. So that's how it goes. Make sure you hit the notification button so you know when these videos go up. If you're interested in staying what is going to be a long course, God willing, a long course of teachings, then hit the subscribe button and get on board with the others who have been doing pretty well with the lessons that I've been giving. All right? So, God willing, pray for me. Pray for me. God willing, and the creek don't rise, I will be with you here again tomorrow on God's answers for anxiety and depression. God bless you. See you tomorrow.